It is the Zach Martin Show on KKDJ TV, Tick TV as well. And boy, we've assembled quite the crew for this episode. We've got Chris Frantz on the drums. We've got Monty Melnick, whatever instrument he wants to play. Go for the spoons. And we got Spencer Drake, who's just going to cause. But before we get bass guitar, is that what you want to do? All right.
Well, I played bass. I played bass.
Were you in the Tangerine Puppets?
No, but after that, I was in a group in 1971, 72 called 30 Days Out. We had 2 records on Warner Brothers Reprise.
We'll also talk about Chris Frantz's book. I have to tell you, Chris.
Great book.
It's well written. I like the pictures. I found out information about you and your family, which blew me away. And the way I wish that I went to the Rhode Island School of Design and took your art class, that one art class. We'll get to that in a little bit. Now, let's talk about your book, Chris. This is one of the things that I was very surprised because I don't know if Spencer told you this, but I was known at St. John's University as a talking head guy. I mean, I would do talent shows where I would sing talking head songs. I would buy Talking Heads tapes and play them at gantries at the bar in Queens. I made sure everybody was listening to my music. And so you were a big part of my college years. I had a 1972 Triumph Spitfire.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Jensen triaxles. And I'm going to and I'm blaring the Talking Heads. I was talking to Spencer before. One of my favorite albums is Speaking in Tongues. And I bought it on cassette and I was riding around with my mom. I just got my license. My mom has since passed away. We're in Middletown, New Jersey. I know exactly where I was. And I'm like, Mom, you got to listen to this album. And we turn it on. It was a 1977 Dodge Brome with a nice big engine, V8. Spencer's got the limited edition. And my mom is listening to it. And she goes, I like it, but it's really weird. Yeah, right. She couldn't explain what kind of music it was. And I think that we get a glimpse of the Talking Heads and your style by reading the book.
Yeah.
You talk about some of those early influences. So why don't we start there? And then maybe we'll talk about your parents and growing up, because you got some funny stories in this book that I busted up laughing, just so you know.
Sure. You'd like to know our influences? Or?
Yeah. In the book, you mentioned some of the groups that you listened to. I'm not talking when you were a kid, the Purple People Eater stuff and John Dean, Bad John and your friend and all that. Not those records. Jimmy Dean. All right. Who's the John Dean? Is that the sausage? I don't know. Go ahead.
I guess, one of our big influences was, everybody was influenced by the Beatles and the Stones and that whole British invasion thing. But one thing that was, David and I were listening to, and Tina in college, was Lenny Kaye's Nuggets album. The first, what do you call it? The artifacts from the first psychedelic era. It was a compilation he did for I think Elektra Records, and it just fantastic. It had all the psychedelic garage bands, and those were a big influence on us, because they weren't afraid to go for some crazy sounds, those bands, and we liked that. Other influences were, one of the reasons we moved to New York was because of Lou Reed and the Velvet Underground. And we were great admirers of theirs. Andy Warhol, the artist, was another reason we moved to New York, because we thought, well, if it's good enough for Andy Warhol, the greatest living artist, it must be good enough for us. And David Bowie was a big influence. And but also, Talking Heads was never one to forget about soul music. We loved, Otis Redding and James Brown and Sam and Dave and Al Green, of course. So those were our influences. It was well, and there was African music, Manu Dibango,
Oh, yeah.
Fela
Yeah,
Kuti.
yeah.
We loved all that stuff.
What I really like about the Talking Heads is almost as if you had your own genre going on. Because you couldn't really go, is it rock? Is it this? Is it that? I like the fact that it was a little bit harder for the average person to identify, or the disc jockey to say, all right, this is a great rock record here in NEW, whatever verbiage they would use. And here's the other thing. I gotta tell you how brave you guys must have been to hang out in the Bowery of New York back in the day to play at CBGB's, because when you pull up in that area, even to this day, at the wrong time, it just looks a little bit like, oh, this is the wrong neighborhood. I'm going to go somewhere else. What was that like being at, what's that? No, not today. They have a condo that's over there, but still, I think because of my time at CBGB's growing up, I still get in the area and I just, quake a little bit, make me a little bit nervous.
It's still even with Whole Foods on the corner of Houston and Bowery, it's still a little bit dicey sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
compared to my neighborhood here in Connecticut, but we had a ball there. Yes, there was an element of danger always in the air on the Bowery, but Monty knows we had a great time there, and like I could walk down the street and I would see drunkards passed out, and I would see a guy beating up his girlfriend or something like that, and then I would see Debbie Harry looking just completely beautiful, or I would walk by Robert Rauschenberg's studio and I would think, wow, Robert Rauschenberg's probably coming up with something really great right now. Or Ornette Coleman lived a block away, and Arturo Vega's loft, which I understand is now for sale. Is that correct?
7.5 million.
Yeah.
Oh,
I guess
it's a bargain.
No, the whole building.
Yeah, 7.5.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow.
Well,
should we chip in and buy it? Me, you, Spencer, and Zach.
Yeah, let's put a bid in then.
Well,
why not?
Somebody should buy it and turn it into the Joey Ramone Cafe or Bistro, something like that.
I think of the trick in those days was not going to the alphabets. You didn't want to go too far east.
Right. You're
right.
A, B, C. Forget about that at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
I write about that in my book a little bit. I touch on it when I was looking for a loft to live in when I first moved to New York in the fall of September of '74, and my brother-in-law, who was an architect, said, "Don't look at the Village Voice. Don't waste your time. Look at the New York Times industrial section on Sundays." So I got the Sunday Times and I went to these various places. It worked. I found a lot of really wild lofts, but one of them was in Alphabet City, and I think it was Avenue B maybe. But anyway, the building I was supposed to be looking at, I arrived there and it was on fire. and nobody was coming to put it out. There was no fire trucks coming or anything. Stood there.
That's because they were cooking upstairs. That's
I just stood there and I thought, well, maybe this is not the right place for us.
Hey,
What was
Zach,
Go ahead.
Ask him some questions about
Absolutely. I'll tell you what. I'll have one question that I ask. Maybe I haven't asked any authors this yet, but it's one of those things I've always wanted to ask because it's such a basic question. I don't know why anybody ever will ask an author this. In this case, Chris, what was the purpose of you writing your book?
Well, I'm getting to be a certain age. I'm 69 to be some might say that's the perfect age. But anyway, I was thinking about writing this book for about 10 years.
Wow.
So and several years ago, I thought, Chris, you've got to get it together. If you're going to do this, it's now or never. Because, I mean, knock on wood, I can still remember things. And I thought, I got to do it because there have been a few books written about Talking Heads, not a lot, but a few. But most of them are, in fact, all of them are just kind of, they made stuff up. It was like they clearly they clearly never asked me what happened, and a lot of it is Monty. You know this regurgitated stuff from like 1978 in the New Music Express or something. That they just copy and paste. So, I got to plug in my battery.
All right. So while Chris is plugging in his battery, nice drum kit behind you. Nice.
Yeah.
Man, we got to talk drums.
That's a 1963 Gretsch.
Oh, wow.
Champagne Sparkle.
Oh my God.
What amazes me about Chris's book is he remembers, like in the 77 tour, every breakfast he had. I can't remember what I had yesterday.
You know, I always say that Tina remembers the serious stuff, and I remember what we had for dinner
Breakfast.
or breakfast.
Well, I like in the book when you open up about playing in Rome, how you're describing your wife on stage. It's, you know, the love you have for her. It's part like in the beginning, it comes across as a love letter to Tina. And then it's paying tribute to your parents, which your dad went to West Point. So immediately I'm like, listen, I never realized this, but I can definitely relate to Chris on so many levels. I'm an Army guy. Yeah. I served in the Army. And you grew up in Kentucky where Zachary Taylor Martin, I mean, you know, Zachary Taylor is a legend in Kentucky, the 12th president of the United States. I'm descended from him and James Madison. How about that?
Right. Very good.
Like you have a lot to live up to. But what I'm gathering from the book, and then I'll let Spencer and then Monty ask some questions, and then we'll play Life During Wartime. What I gather from the book was that your parents are really supportive. And I would say in many ways, and when I'm going to use this word, I don't mean politically, they were very liberal with you. In other words, allowing you to have the freedom to discover and express yourself.
It's true. You're right. I mean, my father was politically very conservative, but like he was a Goldwater Republican, you know, but he was always very supportive of any artistic endeavors I was into, whether it was, you know, when I was very young, writing poetry and stuff, to playing in the school band, you know, in elementary school. And he got me my first drums, you know, and or picking up the tab for my education at the Rhode Island School of Design. My mother and my father both were, they weren't particularly artistic themselves. I mean, they didn't paint or you know, write poetry or anything like that, but they were very supportive of people who did. And I will always appreciate that.
Yeah, you have cool parents, man. That's all I can say. Really.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. My childhood, when I compare it to some people, like, okay, like Monty, let's say Johnny or Dee Dee. When I compare my childhood to those guys, my childhood was like a Mary Poppins or something like that. By, you know, if you contrasted the two, I had such an idyllic childhood.
Well, you know, Johnny went to military school. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Right.
He had a very strict father,
Yeah.
I went to military school because I wanted to. My parents thought I was nuts. I went to the Marine Academy in high school. I was a Sea Scout before I went to the military high school. At St. John's, I took ROTC, and we did a lot of our training at West Point. So, you know,
Cool.
You know, but I wouldn't trade that with any experience in the world because it's part of my character. It taught me how to do things like work. You know, work ethic and those kind of things.
Self-reliance.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's important. I mean, my dad went to Valley Forge Military Academy.
I wanted to go there. I couldn't afford it, so I had to.
Pennsylvania, and then from there he went on to West Point, and he's buried at West Point actually.
Oh wow! One of these days I'll go pay tribute to your dad and just pay a visit and say a little prayer. Why don't you ask your question, Monty? You go first.
Well, I just had to say the book is amazing, Chris. I mean, going over all those things, you go CBGB's days and the 77 tour just brings me back, and it's a great book. I love it. I love it.
Oh, thank you, Monty.
But,
Coming from you, I really appreciate that.
And we should say it's "Remain in Love." I don't know why I kept saying, well, because of the album. I go "Remain in the Light," and I'm not. I'm gonna. Please don't be offended. I'm not as old as you guys, but the Don isn't what he used to be. "Remain in Love." It's great.
Yeah.
Tell us about the cover. How did you get that designed?
This cover, I have a friend. Her name is Megan Wilson. She's the significant other of Duncan Hanna, the painter Duncan Hanna. Anyway, Megan is a very well-known book designer. I believe she works full-time for Penguin Classics.
Okay.
But I said, Megan, I'm gonna. She had designed Duncan Hanna's fabulous diaries, journals from the 70s that he wrote. The title is 21st Century Boy. And she had designed that cover. And I thought, that's really cool. And I knew her. So I just called her up and I said, would you do a cover for me? And she said, I would love to. And she came back with this, like within a couple of days. And it's it references Remain in Love, but also the first Talking Heads album. And it's got little elements of Jimmy Rizzi's artwork.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Tom Club. And to me, it's just perfect. So very grateful to Megan Wilson.
Wow. Very, very nice job. And we'll have Spencer talk about the artwork and some album covers in just a second. I don't know if you ever watched Charlie's Angels, Chris Frantz, but in the final season, there is an appearance of a Talking Heads album when Jacqueline Smith goes into a warehouse.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're going to have to find that one. Because when you make it on Charlie's Angels, that's all you need to do.
Yeah, I mean.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Check it out.
Speaking of Rizzi there, talk about 6 degrees of separation. Behind me is a poster. 1986, the Ramones played the Queen's Festival in 1986, and Rizzi designed the poster for that.
Oh, wow.
So
that's very cool.
So everything's 6 degrees, Chris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy was part of. Jimmy used to hang out at CBGB's and the Mud Club and all that. He knew what was up.
Well, how many of you guys on this show have ever met Kevin Bacon?
No.
I bumped into him once on Broadway on the street walking down.
Wow.
I taught his kid Zach karate, and I was at a karate tournament sitting right next to Kevin Bacon and his wife, Kira Cedric. I guess that's how you say her last name.
Yeah. Cedric.
So you mentioned Monty. You mentioned 6 degrees of separation. I mean, you just bring up Kevin Bacon. Bam. There you go.
We all have it.
All right, Spencer, show us what you got.
Well, I'll start off with, first of all, I'm very honored to be here with Chris and Monty and you, of course, and I was involved somewhere in the Talking Heads history. I was hired by Sire to work on some album covers with the group, and I was fortunate to be I got to admit, I was a good designer. Everything flowed really good, and I want to show you the one of them, which is, of course, the very famous Fear of Music, which got nominated for a Grammy in album packaging, in the MoMA collection, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame archive collection, and in our curated Art of Vinyl cover show on YouTube. This is a very iconic cover. Also in the 100 Best Album Cover book by Storm Thorgerson, and I'm actually named in it, putting together. But Chris, I want to know your feedback on this, because we know that Jerry Harrison had the concept of the metal plate, and I worked with David, I believe, sketches, but I evolved it into typewriter type and boarded it, which made it with the green type, and it turned out to be a fantastic cover. But you must have some feedback on this, right, Chris?
I have a little. Where we lived in Long Island City, during the we moved there in around the time of the bicentennial, so 1976, we moved over from the Bowery to Long Island City. Hilly Crystal let us use his moving van. A lot of people don't know Hilly had a moving business on the side to really support himself. I don't think he was making enough at CBGB's. But anyway, we moved over there, and our next door neighbor was Tina's brother, Jan Weymouth, who's a well-known architect and who was one of the avatars of the whole concept of high-tech design and high-tech in the home. And he had in his kitchen, his little kitchen in his loft next door to us, he had, it wasn't metal, but it was rubber. What do you call that surface, Spencer? The Fear of Music?
Metal grating?
Skid-proof.
Deck
Skid
plate.
proof.
Okay.
Yeah, deck plate, skid-proof deck plate. He had rubber ones, rubber tiles that he put down in his kitchen. And Jerry and I were drinking wine in his kitchen at one of his many dinner parties that we would go to. And Jerry said, "You know, that looks so good. We should make an album cover out of that." And originally, I think Jerry wanted to do it in rubber.
Yeah, he wanted to do it in rubber, but it cost too much. I remember that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we ended up using embossed paper,
Right.
which worked fine. But yeah, you did a good job on that, Spencer.
Yeah, well, it was really a group trip, and what really was amazing for me working with you people, which were great art design. I had a Yale schooling, and your guys are coming from RISD. So basically, the design and art thing was there, and the elements were perfect. So it was a easy. This was easy flow design. I even like. I'll show you the inner sleeve, because the inner sleeve, Chris,
Yeah. Those were taken at a doctor's office. That's David, but it's a thermography. It's like heat sensitive photography, and they were using it, and they were developing this idea to detect cancer, and we somehow got it. I think again through Jerry. Jerry's something of a hypochondriac. So he had friends that were doctors, and he would always be wanting to know what the latest stuff was. And one of his doctor friends said, "Well, come on in, we'll take your thermographic photos." And so they did everybody in the band, but it ended up that the singular image was more striking than a group image.
We really should have Jerry in on one of these too, to ask him his latest take on COVID-19. I bet you he's online all the time looking up the stats, how to avoid it, knows how to wear the mask correctly.
Right.
That's funny. That's
so funny. This was the 45, which Chris, Plastics did the artwork.
Yes,
they're great cover, absolutely fantastic cover.
The Plastics were from Japan, from Tokyo, and they were a band, but they were also graphic designers, very successful, I might add, at graphic design.
Yeah. And then the last, of course, I worked on, which was in a MoMA show, is the famous "Take Me to the River" sleeve, which came out beautiful.
Yeah, that photo. Remember the photo, Spencer? It was taken by the local Warner Brothers promotion man in Memphis.
That I didn't know. I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah, we asked him would he take a photo, and he did, and he sent it up to us, and there it is. That's Al Green's Full Gospel Tabernacle.
I remember reading about that. That's out of nowhere. One day I was just, I guess I was on the air, and you know what happens when, well, maybe you don't know what happens, but when you're on the radio, the song is playing and everybody thinks we're just jamming the whole entire time. They get this idea of what it must be like to be on the radio. I'm thinking to myself, well, this is good reading material. I got to go to the bathroom, put on the song and go. Yeah, I remember reading these kind of things. That's always
And
cool.
by the way, guys, that cover was in a MoMA show curated by Laurie Anderson in 2010. And I walked in and I saw the cover on the wall. I went, Chris, oh my God. I mean, here it is, it meant so much to me working with you and the group. I mean, it meant so much to me. And these are some of my favorite covers ever designed. And I must show this because you write this in the book. You have a piece on this in the book about the famous, tell us about the Rauschenberg story.
Well, we were great admirers of Rauschenberg. And David's wife, her nickname was Bonnie, so we called her Bonnie, but her real name is Adele Lutz. And Adele's sister, Bonnie's sister, was Tina Chow, the wife of Mr. Chow. Bonnie, before she was married to David, she worked as a receptionist at Mr. Chow, both in New York and Los Angeles. And Mr. Chow's was a place frequented by high-rolling artists, such as Robert Rauschenberg and Basquiat, people like that. And so she knew Robert Rauschenberg, and he was a Talking Heads fan. And so we approached him through her. She arranged a little rendezvous, and he came to see us play in Los Angeles. And we said, would you please do an album cover for us? And he said, yeah, as long as a certain percentage goes to my, he didn't take a fee. Instead, he wanted a contribution to his foundation, artistic foundation. So we said, yeah, sure. And he did this. And it was, he was known for multiples and using photographic imagery or images from magazines and stuff. And so anyway, he created this, and it's this album cover and the album itself go together. And and it ended up being created by the Hormel, the people that do the Hormel
chili.
No, not Hormel. What am I thinking of? The hot dogs. Oscar Mayer.
Oscar Mayer.
Oscar Myers.
The people that make the Oscar Mayer packages said, oh, yeah, we could make that for you.
Oh, wow.
And so that was made by the Oscar Mayer Wiener people.
I want to ask you some questions in the book, too, Chris, if I could. One was, how did the name Talking Heads evolve, number one?
Okay.
Well, we had a friend from the Rhode Island School of Design who was visiting us at our loft on Christie Street, and he saw that we were searching for a band name because it was coming time for us to do our audition in front of the Ramones at CBGB's. We were the support band, and we didn't even have a name yet. So we were trying out all these names, and we would put them on the bass drum head, see how we liked it. And he said, his name was Wayne Zeev. And Wayne said, I was reading in TV Guide. They had a glossary, like who reads TV Guide? But Wayne did. And they have a glossary of video cameraman's jargon. And one of the expressions they use is a talking head. It's considered to be the most boring, but also the most informative format of broadcasting. It's what we're doing right now. And so we said, oh, Talking Heads. And Tina and David and I, we all liked that name.
Wow.
So we just said, okay, we'll go with that. Because it didn't sound like any particular type of music or anything. Yeah. In fact, it could have been a comedy troupe or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. I want to ask you also another thing. There's a series of questions. The Roundhouse, the event. Now, Monty, you could check in on this one. The Roundhouse event.
Yes. Well, 1977, the tour we did. Let me see if I have a picture of it here. It's a train. Actually, it was a train where they turned around trains early on, and they turned it into a great venue. And it was a great club. It was a great place to play. You have a picture of this in your book, but I have the colored picture here.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow, cool.
Nice.
Excellent.
That's the colored picture of it here.
Wow.
Yeah. And
oh wow, that is really cool.
Yeah.
remember, Monty, it was the Queen's Jubilee weekend in London. So it was like a big holiday weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's celebrating all sorts of souvenirs and like tchotchkes and things you can buy and stuff like that. A lot of people in town, and the place was packed. It was amazing concert.
They had, and the Roundhouse had very famous people play there, like Jeff Beck and stuff, right?
Oh
right,
yeah,
Chris?
everybody.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Everybody.
Here's one question that I have for you, Chris, and then we're going to play one of the Talking Heads videos that I have, as well as the Tom Tom Club, which is another favorite band of mine. I was under the impression, I don't know if it's true or not, I never got to see the Talking Heads live in concert, and I think that every opportunity, for whatever reason, I could kick myself in the butt because I never got to see you guys play. But I heard on some radio station that you guys are thinking about doing some sort of reunion concert. I don't know if it was a tour or anything like that, and you're all set to go, and bam, COVID-19. So what is the truth about that?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are always rumors, but about Talking Heads reuniting, and I wish one day the rumors would come true, but no, that was Tom Tom Club. That was we were getting ready to do some secret shows, and one of them was in Chicago, and it was going to be loads of fun. But then the pandemic arrived, and that was that.
God, this is the worst year ever. So can we have something to look forward to in 2021? Maybe we have a Tom Tom Club thing happening. Can we do something?
Yeah. I think it's very possible.
What made you decide to do that? I think you mentioned this in the book. I can't remember all the different things I read, but it was one of those things I thought was really unique, and it sort of went in line with your concept and your philosophy on drumming overall, about how the drummer fits within the music. So why don't you talk about what makes drumming great in your mind, and maybe some of your favorite drummers, and then talk about how the drummer has to fit in the group in your mind. You're into the dance part of it.
Well, Monty will enjoy this. I've been playing drums. I've been playing drums since I was 10 years old, something like that. I think that's when I started, and maybe I was 11. Anyway, what I liked about drumming, kind of, and what I imagined good drumming was, kind of evolved over the years. When you're young, you play to impress your friends, and you want them to say, "Wow, you're really good, man." And you practice and you practice, and you learn some complicated stuff, and you try to blow people's minds by playing this complicated business. And then I discovered soul, and I realized, it's not just about how fast or how flashy you are. It's also about the groove. And then glam rock came out, David Bowie and Roxy Music, and I thought, it's about being dramatic and enhancing the song with a lot of interesting fills and flourishes and things like that. And then I went to CBGB's, and I saw the Ramones, and I watched Tommy Ramone, and I said, I like this. I like this style. It's like very minimalist. It's everything is boiled down to the essence, like in minimal art. It's just no frills, but it's completely exciting. And it's working very well. I mean, look at the people jumping up and down. It's really working.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, Chris, you must play the drums more like Tommy Ramone. and I did. And I started like for example, I got rid of my ride cymbal altogether. And I only put a crash here now and then on the accents the way Tommy did. And I also, now I was a little bit more disco inspired than Tommy, but both of us, we kept our fills to a real minimum, and we only did them when the song really called for it.
Well, the thing was, Tommy was not a drummer. He was a guitar player.
Yeah, but he was a good drummer, really good.
The problem is that when he got together with the Ramones, he just wanted to produce them and manage them. So he pulled Joey off the drums. He was playing drums at the time. Didi was singing and playing bass, and they couldn't do both at the time. So they started looking for drummers, but nobody could understand what they were doing. So Tommy would sit down at the drums. He's a guitar player. I played with him in a number of bands. I was bass, he was a guitar. And he just developed that whole style.
Yeah.
The Ramones. He said, okay, join the group. So he joined the group. But he's a guitar player who developed the style of Ramones drumming. So you kind of picked up on it.
Which then Marky finessed very well. Yeah. But that, I know that what Tommy was doing is not easy to do. In fact, it requires enormous self-discipline and muscular like development, you know.
Well, when they were auditioning drummers, they could no drummer at the early stages of the Ramones could figure out what they were doing. They just couldn't do it. So Tom, I'll sit in.
Wow, that makes sense because he had his own formula that he just designed on the fly because he comes from the guitar. He's like, all right, let me take a whack at it. Man, you gotta love that kind of stuff.
It was a great musician. He was a great musician.
I got to ask you a question about. I'll bring Monty and Chris again into this. You have a chapter, Chris, on touring with the Ramones. Can you tell us some stories, both of you?
Oh my God!
Got a lot of them.
There's so many. We were together for what was it, Monty? 6 weeks.
Yes.
And you know, it was. Look, let me just say this: it was one of the best experiences of my life, and it was a tour of. It was my first time ever in Europe. I had not. Had you been? Had you been to Europe before? I hadn't, or England, and so. That alone was very exciting to me, but to be there during the pinnacle of punk rock.
Wow.
You know, the Sex Pistols had just released their first album. The Clash had just released theirs. The Jam, the Slits, the Damned, all the Ian Dury and the Blockheads were about to come out. You know, it was a very exciting time. And on the poster, they always put at the bottom, you know, I would say Ramones, and then in smaller letters, Talking Heads.
Here we go.
Yeah, they would always say New York Rock.
Well, the first show in Zurich.
Wow.
I got that in a book.
Yeah.
At the Volk House, right?
Wow.
The Volk House, yeah. So anyway, often they would put at the bottom, New York Rock CBGBs. That was like all the kids in Europe needed to know, and they would buy a ticket.
Wow.
Leon.
Wow, that's great.
There.
Oh, that's great.
We have up here Manchester, and that's Groningen.
Groningen.
Oh, Monty's got to go answer the phone. You know, in your book, Remain in Love, I was just wondering, as I'm reading all the different names that you talk about, did you tell the people that they were going to be included in the book, like some of the people that you experienced growing up as a child, people that you went to college with?
You know, some of them are going to be surprised.
I was wondering about him. Like, man, if my name ends up in this book and it's a bad story, I'm going to kill him. You know.
Yeah, but most of the people I called them up to check, you know, if sort of fact check my memory, and I was shocked to find out that a lot of people don't remember anything, like from back. it's just, oh yeah, it was great back then, but I don't remember.
Yeah, well,
the old saying, if you remember, you really weren't there.
That's right. That's
Right,
what,
right.
And you know what happens to all of us? I think we go to certain areas. Maybe I don't know if you ever go back to your hometown and look at the house that you grew up in, maybe when you were a baby or whatever like that, and then you just have these like little like memories that they don't even make any sense. They might even be out of order, and it just makes you feel either going to feel really good or really sad. What was like? Let's talk about both ends of the spectrum with Remain in Love. What made you feel really good about the book, and maybe a little bit on the sad side or somber? You don't seem like a somber, sad person. You seem like you're very happy. So you know, maybe you want to.
Yeah, my sons call me the happiest man in the world because I'm always so darn happy. But I have a lot to be happy about, you know. Yeah. But what made me, well, my happiest memories, of course, are well, the book is loaded with happy memories. The sad,
Chris, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's a
big episode. I forgot about that.
That was a great night. It was both Talking Heads and the Ramones were inducted on the same night in our first year of eligibility, and it was a wonderful evening. What was sad to remember was things that didn't work out well. You know, I'm not going to name any names, but there were certain things that just, were great disappointments, and that made me sad. And I tried not to dwell on them too much.
For me, it was a bit sad because Joey wasn't there.
Yeah, that was sad. Yeah,
and John didn't want to play Ramones songs, so Green Day came up and played the Ramones songs.
Yeah.
I love Green Day, but Joey not being there, I can see why John didn't want to really go up there and play with somebody else.
Yeah. My kids were there, Monty, and they are super Ramones fans, and they thought that Green Day actually did a very good job.
Great, they did a good job. I like Green Day. Billy Joel's great.
Yeah, they got a new album out right now, as a matter of fact, where they do a bunch of covers, and one of them is "Dreaming" by Blondie, which is really a great rendition. You might want to check that out.
Nice.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something to Chris, because we got to bring Tina in this conversation. And
absolutely.
The exit in. This is where you're saying that Tina's fashion was unbelievable. This whole thing happened. Tell us about that.
Well, the Exit Inn is a famous nightclub in Nashville, Tennessee. I believe it's still there. And it's a showcase place like the Bottom Line was in New York. And we played there after a big show in Atlanta. We were driving into Nashville. I was behind the wheel in my hand-me-down station wagon from my parents, a Ford Country Squire.
Great car, man. Great car.
It was raining. It was kind of the whole band was asleep in the car except for me behind the wheel. And I decided I'd turn on the radio and tune into the Nashville channel that was supposed to be promoting the show. The radio station was supposed to be supporting the show. So I tuned in, and I heard the DJ say, "And now, Psycho Killer," and he played Psycho Killer. And he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, for the first time and hopefully the last time, Talking Heads will be premiering at the Exit Inn." I thought, oh, damn,
that's harsh, man.
What you learn is what you learn is to be nice to these radio stations because they will play your record if you're in town, maybe one time. And then you leave town and they've forgotten about you. But
that has always been my pet peeve and I still see it to this day. That's why I want to do things differently, gentlemen. When an artist spends their time with me, I'm not only going to play their music while they're here, but I'm going to play their music after they leave, and be a person of my word and not just get them to, oh, come on over to the station. Sure, we'll add your song. I mean, you guys all are very well aware of what happens to artists, and quite honestly, I can't stand radio people that do that. It's one of my pet peeves. I don't like when program directors will go, yeah, you can't play any of their songs, but you can have them in on the interview. I'm like, well, what the hell you want me to do? Now, I got to tell you something. In my career, Chris, I used to get in trouble when I would go to markets that were in the Midwest, Denver. I would get one time I was in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I would be on at night, and I start playing Talking Head songs, and the hotline would ring like, "Who the hell are you? What are you doing here? Playing a Talking Head and the Ramones and all of the stuff that I grew up and really enjoyed." So I took a lot of heat from playing the Talking Heads. My nickname was the Talking Heads Kid at St. John's University, like I told you before. So I just want to thank you for always, you and the guys always bringing so much joy to my life and creating some really great memories. That's what music is really all about. Yeah. And, hearing the stories and having Monty on talk a little bit about the Ramones and Spencer about the background of the album covers, you talking about Tina, the book you write, the music that you produce, having the Tom Tom Club, your philosophy on the drums, all of that stuff. I just got to thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing these stories with us. And we're about to play an early video of the Talking Heads in concert because, like I said before, never got to see you live. It's just one of those things. And I had stopped making sense, and I had the whole thing down when I would do the talent shows. Just a great album.
Hey, can I ask one question, Zach?
Go ahead,
Chris.
Spencer.
This is for Monty and Chris. You'll enjoy this one. The punk term globbing.
Oh,
gobbing.
Yeah.
Gobbing. Could you talk to us about that? That seemed to be incredible. I never knew about it, in fact.
Oh, so gross.
Go ahead,
Monty.
Why are you asking gross questions, Spencer? Come on, man.
I don't know. It's part of the punk scene. You know what I mean? Monty.
For that particular period, the punk rock audience thought that spitting on the band was a compliment. It got so bad.
Oh,
like raining spit.
I
was stage, but I felt bad for them because they come up after the show is like dripping. It was horrible.
Disgusting, man.
Yeah, and the poor road crew had to wipe everything at the end of the night.
Did you get a lot of that spitting?
Spencer, you're not allowed to ask any more questions.
When the
that's an
came on at some of these gigs in England, it was like a blizzard. In the it was.
Jeez.
Oh man.
It must have been horrible if you went to Germany. It must have been really bad. They're crazier than the English.
I don't know. I think the English are pretty crazy.
No,
the British.
England was the worst. And
hey, listen. One more question. I want to ask you about Gary Kurfürst. He was a big thing in your life, Chris.
Yeah. Gary was our manager, and he later also managed the Ramones, and he managed the Ramones for a very long time, and the only manager Talking Heads ever had. And he's grew up in Forest Hills like the Ramones did, and I think they spoke the same language.
I remember
Chris,
that guy was.
Go ahead, Monty.
He used to go to a lot of your shows. And I never saw him in a lot of my the Ramones shows, though. Be around all the international fame there that you had with all the, but I never saw him a lot in our shows. It's very strange.
Well, I went to Gary's shows with Gary, Ramon shows with Gary. I remember one particularly at the was it the Country Club in London?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Yeah, and then there was another place in the Valley in Los Angeles. What was that that club you guys used to play all the time in the Valley. I went
I'm not sure what that is. Huh?
the San Fernando Valley. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was a music club that Talking Heads never played there. But I went with Gary to see the Ramones twice. Oh well. Anyway, maybe he didn't go as often as he did with us. But
He likes you guys better.
Chris, when you're driving around and you would hear the Talking Heads on the radio, maybe in New York on maybe a famous radio station, did you get a kick out of that? What was it like to hear?
yeah.
Or maybe when your kids heard your songs, what was that like?
I still get a kick out of it, like especially at Stop and Shop when I'm
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
going down the aisle and I hear.
And all the 70-year-old ladies, this ain't no party. This ain't no disco. This ain't no fooling around. Yeah.
The shoppers want to buy when they hear that song.
All right. Well, listen, thank you for your time, gentlemen. This is great. Monty?
A quick thing.
I
was talking to Ed Stacy, and he says hello, and John Holmstrom say hello.
Yay.
Likewise.
Everybody says
Hello,
hi.
gentlemen.
Well, we can fit up to 10 people on these broadcasts, so next time,
John
get them all
Holmstrom
on.
did the cover for
And this is Monty's book. That I'm in. I mentioned it.
the cover for that. And Chris is in the book, too. I'm in his book. He's in my book.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know what? Maybe we got to have you on, Monty, to talk about this book.
Well, let's
Right.
do it.
Did I miss something in the emails? Yeah, I'm really bad with emails, guys. I pay attention to. I'm always getting. This is the other thing. Besides playing what I want in the radio, I always get in trouble because I guess you didn't read my email. I get that all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, I read it. It was about radio. Hey, all right. Well, thank you very much, Chris, for hanging out with us. Remain in the Love. Great book, well written. I got to give you an A+.
Well done, Chris.
A+ on grammar.
Oh, thank you.
Your nursery school teachers with the humpbacks would be very impressed by that. I can't believe you said that they had humpbacks, but yeah, all right.
But they did.
And
Well,
Chris,
you're honest.
Chris, I gotta say, Chris, that you have some great humor in that book. Some of your little humor quips are amazing. I was on the floor.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd let him play with my daughters as a kid either. I read that one story. I had to read that twice. Let me just say,
I was very
you have to get this book. What's that?
I was very naughty when I was young.
Oh, you were a naughty boy, but it is really a great book.
Great book.
And if someone's wants to write a book, it could be somebody famous. It could be just everyday people. I wrote a book one time. I'm ashamed that I wrote it because I had to do 100,000 words within 3 months, and it had to come out at a certain time, and it was put in the Daily News by the chapter. We won't even talk about it. If I could do it again, I'd do it definitely different. What are some writing tips for people?
From me?
Yeah, from you.
Well,
by the way, the drummer is always the smartest guy in the band. Go.
I had lunch just before I started working on this book. I had lunch with Ian Hunter, the singer.
Oh my gosh! Yes, one of my favorites. I love him.
And Ian used to come down to CBGB sometimes, with Mick Ronson in those.
Oh wow!
But he lives not far. I'm in Connecticut. He lives not too far, about 20 miles away. And we met for lunch, and I wanted to sort of pick his brain a little bit because he wrote this great book called Diary of a Rock and Roll Star about his first tour, and the opening act was Queen,
Wow.
But anyway, I said to him, Ian, I like the book very much. And I said to him, Ian, do you have any tips for me, any advice? And he said, well, mate, the only thing I can tell you is to always write in your own voice. And so I think that's really important is to write as if you were speaking to a friend and not try to put on airs or be more verbose than you need to be.
I really like that. That's great advice. I mean, I did meet Ian Hunter one time. I was very excited because Mott the Hoople, again, all the way from Memphis, and I was really overexcited. He was coming in to fill in for the great Scott Muni. You might remember Scott.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh. I don't know why, but I really got excited over Ian Hunter.
Yeah.
I do not know why. He comes in, and the only question I could think of is, what did you think of Great White covering Once Bitten, Twice Shy? And he goes, I hated it. I'm like, damn it. I had to start off with that question. So stupid, you know. But yeah, I'd like to see what he's up to these days. What is Ian up to? What is he doing?
Well, you know, he had a attack of very serious tinnitus.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's horrible.
And I understand he's recovering from that.
Thank God.
And he's getting better. And I think he's looking forward to doing some shows in the not too far future. But he has to take it step by step, you know.
All right.
Yeah,
well,
I saw him, Zach and Chris and Monty. I saw him do. He was playing a lot at City Winery in New York. I would review it.
Oh, yeah.
I'd go backstage and talk with him, and he was such a great person to talk with.
He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah, wonderful guy.
Super guy.
All right, so round robin before we leave and play Life During Wartime, which we have an old band video of you guys in concert. Monty, what are you up to these days? Tell us about your book and how people can follow you.
I'm up to everything, just on hold with the coronavirus. I was the in-house manager in the Queen's Theater in the Park, but that's on hold right now. Who knows when the theaters are going to come back? And of course, my book is On the Road with Ramones. Just came out in a bonus edition, 40 more pages, covered by John Holmstrom.
Oh,
I think that's a riot the size that you have the book in. That's so Ramones.
Well,
Yeah.
I keep it in my pocket. I hand out the cards to everybody. Red Ramones on it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And
I got to
Monty,
get a copy of
Monty,
that.
I got to thank you for putting my name in it with the credit for the Ramones covers. That was very nice of you. It meant a lot to me.
Ramones history, as Chris is also, and
Yeah.
I love your book, Chris. By the way,
Are you on Facebook, Monty, so people can fight with you?
email me.
Good. Spencer, what are you up to these days, buddy?
Well, right now I want to, of course, that Chris' book is, I got to say, got to buy it. Unbelievable. And he's going to be interviewed actually on the radio show I do with Holly Steffi in September, which we're looking forward to. And right now I'm in a COVID area. We've had some projects we started, were stopped. I plan to do a very big vinyl show with Sylvia Reed and some other great people when this thing ends. And right now I'm doing a lot of interviews on radio and media. So I'm enjoying it. And Zach, I enjoy doing stuff with you, of course.
I do appreciate your time and energy and all your emails. I mean, just so everybody knows that Spencer is up around 5 o'clock in the morning. I get the emails. He goes to bed around 12 o'clock at night. I still get the emails. I wake up at 2 to go to the bathroom. I get the emails. I mean, this guy is just, always with the emails. I love working with Spencer. And if anybody's listening, during COVID-19, let me just say this, guys. It's really important to keep busy, to make sure that you're occupied and make the most out of your time. You're never going to get an opportunity like this ever again in your lifetime to learn a language, to discover new music, to read some good books like Remain in Love, or the Ramones book that Monty has, or Appreciate Art of Spencer Drake, or spend more time with the kids and your loved ones or your wife, or your spouse, whatever. You'll never get the opportunity to look within yourself and see where you are spiritually, if that's your thing. You'll never get an opportunity to probably come up with great ideas and focus about what I can do with my life and the people I can help and, the things I can create while I'm in this little, what I call prison. For me, I'm always astounded at some of the greatest artists and the biggest contributors in our time have been in these kind of circumstances. If you look in history, you don't have to go too far. Then there's the other side of it. And I've been really trying to help people out by letting them know that there are people to talk to, that suicide is really a bad decision to make. So I make sure that every single one of my broadcasts, each and every day, I let people know about the suicide prevention hotline. Take down the number, write it down, put it on your refrigerator, talk to your priest, your pastor, your rabbi, your religious leader, your doctor, your lawyer, your bartenders are really good for this kind of stuff. Whomever you got to talk to somebody. Dial a number if you need to, 800-273-8255. Listen to the Fear of Music while you call the suicide prevention hotline. 800-273-8255. And I just think, it's all what you make out of it. Chris, like in your book, it seems to me like you made the most out of every opportunity. And that's another good reason to read your book, because it gives you insight. It teaches you things. You learn a little bit of values. You got some great photos and some really captivating stories. If instead of reading the same old to learn literature and to learn the proper form of grammar, one good way to excel in our language is by reading good books that are easy reads and fun reads, like Chris has. And
Yeah,
check out.
I want to add to that because I'm in the Anthony de Curtis Lou Reed Life book I was mentioned. But the point I want to make is Anthony Curtis, as you well know, is a great writer. Well, I got to tell you, Chris Frantz's book is in the same plateau with that book, and I highly regard that book. So I just want everybody to know that. So it's worth buying and reading.
I have a question for Chris. What does Tina think of the book? Because usually the wife really has the actual take.
Well, thank God she really likes it. I mean, if she didn't like it, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But yeah, I waited until I was like 99% finished before I showed it to her, because I thought, if she shoots me down, I'll never finish it, So and she helped me with grammar, and she helped me with some editing and some fact checking. And she was very supportive. And,
well, that's good. That's great.
She still is.
Tell Tina I said hello, and
Yeah, the same, Chris, for me. Say hello to Tina, please.
Say hello to from the Talking Heads kid at St. John's.
I will.
Because I'm always a big fan. So thank you very much. How can people follow you, Chris Frantz? Because I'll say this: the Talking Heads, Chris Frantz, and I don't even know if I checked on Tina. None of you guys seem to have websites.
We have Talking Heads website, and it's talkingheads.net, and we also have talkingheads.com, and we have I confess my Tom Tom Club website is sorely outdated. It needs to be revised, and
I see.
But I'm on Facebook, Chris Frantz.
Okay, that's better.
I'm on Instagram, Chris Frantz. I'm on Twitter, Chris Frantz TTC. And I'm on Tumblr. I think it's Genius of Love. So I'm out there.
Yeah. Okay,
good. Yeah, I tried to Google the Talking Heads, and I just got bad search results on that. So I'm glad I told you what the site is. But, and having a .net, nobody ever goes to .net, right?
Yeah, it could be. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
Chris, I want to add to this. I'm an avid 45 LP collector, and I bought some of your Tom Tom Club's records, of course. But who did the artwork on those sleeves? They were beautiful. The Tom Tom Club sleeves are great artwork.
Well, different artists on different records. But Jimmy Rizzi was our main artist. James Rizzi.
Great artwork. Great artwork.
Yeah. This is a great book.
Oh,
yeah,
right,
I have it.
Yeah, Chris had me on his show, interviewed about that, and Zach has done that too.
Wait a minute, Chris has a show too. Everybody's got a show these days.
Yeah, PKN. He was on PKN.
I have a radio show, but I haven't done it for several months because of the COVID thing. I just didn't, I just didn't want to take any chances.
Well, I have the technology available that you can voice track from home. All you need is a microphone.
That's right.
Great? Yeah, I bring the radio station to the people, man. While we're talking about that, and then we'll wrap it up because I know you've been here over an hour. We're only supposed to do this for a half hour. So we have newhdusa.com, and the idea behind New HD is to bring back the iconic 102.7 WNEW where rock lives in New York, but on HD2. If you follow around on your radio, you got the little H2, so you make one click, boom, you got it, where rock lives, right? Be great. Monty's thinking to myself, ooh, that sounds like a fantastic idea. And the idea is to create jobs for people that live on the spectrum with autism and various disabilities, because this I think radio is still a viable medium where if we just stop thinking about making it into a big, gigantic corporate business, we can really serve the community and create jobs and let people express themselves in healthy ways. I have one young man, and I won't mention him by name, and back to the whole suicide prevention thing, guys, where he was suicidal until I figured out he wanted to be on the radio, and I found a radio station for him out west, and he does it now, and it changed his life. He's 30 years old. He loves his music, and he can express himself. So that's the whole mission we're on, to tell all your friends that you might interact with that we plan on really trying to find ways to help over 5 million people throughout the United States who suffer with autism, as well as primary caregivers, disabled veterans, and other people with various disabilities. So that's what we're all about. And thank you for allowing us this time to talk to you and share music and share stories. And as we go, I know Spencer has one last thing to do there. He's putting up his plastic thing.
Life during wartime, isn't it?
Oh, Life During Wartime. What a great single, great song. One of my favorites, Chris.
Now, I almost became a CIA agent, believe it, because of that song. It's a true story. The last time I was offered to be part of the CIA was just a couple years ago in 2017. 2017, and it was a part of a really interesting operation. I was like, no thanks, I don't want to get killed. So it was the end of that one. But that song was going through my head while I was having the conversation. And by the way, I'm glad I didn't do that, because the guys that I know that went into that special detail, all loonies. And you think I'm making this stuff up, but I'm not. You know, that's the weird part of it.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't even mention it. All right. Well, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Zach, I got one more thing. I got to mention, I saw Chris and Tom Tom Club pay at a Bowl-O-Rama in Brooklyn. And
Wow.
one thing I noticed about Chris, which I've never seen, he smiles all the time.
Yeah.
He has this love of this instrument. I mean, I can't believe it. I love it.
I love it because it's my dream, my dream. It's my dream gig, and I actually got it, so
That's beautiful.
Well, listen, you can just keep on keeping on. Nobody says you have to stop anytime soon, man.
Yeah.
Right.
thank you.